Welcome to the Midlife Men podcast with me, Philip Briscoe. Today I'm joined by John Colbert. John's a long-time ad guy who turned the loss of his father to prostate cancer into a darkly funny but very deeply human memoir of short stories about grief, about masculinity, and also about how men rebuild way long after the funerals happen. So a very good welcome to you, John.
Thank you for having me. How's it going?
Good, very good. Good to have you. I think I've been wanting to talk about bereavement, especially parental bereavement, for quite a long time, actually, because it's very relevant to especially people in kind of midlife. Unfortunately, it's what happens. So thanks for joining us today. Perhaps we could start by, perhaps you could take us back to life before your father passed away. You know, what kind of man were you? What was your relationship like with it?
To be honest, I was kind of a moron. I was a kid. I was, cocky and, hadn't been humbled yet. We grew up pretty comfortably. I didn't realize it at the moment yet. But yes, my dad started getting sick. I think I was about, he had it for 6 years. He passed away about almost 21. So I was a teenager when he started getting sick. We didn't have a great relationship, to be honest. He was pretty strict, and I, again, was an annoying teenager. So it was hard because as we started getting close when I went to college, then unfortunately that's, of course, Murphy's Law. That's when just as we were starting to get actually laugh together and stuff, that's when he passed, which I was like, God damn it. But yeah, I was clueless, when, when he was sick, and I was pretty selfish. And, so once he passed, it was school of hard knocks. I had to, grow up, man up. And yeah, it was very humbling. It was brutal. It was good in the long run, but it was brutal at the time. So.
Well, I know you've written, and we'll talk about your book, but I know you've written that men aren't told how to grieve. We're kind of encouraged to bury it. So how did that work for you? How did you react with that sort of, I guess, general societal guidance?
Yeah, it's. I think it's slowly getting better with every generation. But growing up, I wasn't taught what's that emotion you're feeling? Let's describe it. So I remember when my dad was passing, I actually, after my dad passed, and I got very, very severely depressed, and a girl I was dating at the time urged me to go to therapy. And I remember being in a therapist's room, and it was just awkward silence. And I was like, and she's like, I'm not going to talk. And I was like, well, I don't know how to talk about feelings. So those sessions for a while were really awkward because it was like trying to speak Spanish when you'd never taken Spanish. My sisters, I have all sisters. They could talk about feelings easily, but me, it was I feel like a caveman.
Do you think that started, when you were young, repressing perhaps those sorts of emotions?
I think it did. Yeah. I mean, my mom, my dad was more positive. My mom was more negative. I think I get the dark humor from my mom, but I think she encouraged complaining, but not really expressing feelings, right? In a mature way. So again, I'm actually grateful I started going to therapy when I was 21, because that really taught me, and that helped future relationships, because until that point, I would date people and they would get so frustrated because they'd be like, what, you can't, I just couldn't talk through things. It was really bad. And again, I think that's, yes, unfortunately for men, we're just not, we're so bad at it. But I think it's getting better. I think as every generation coming along, I think they're getting better at it. They're more encouraged. It's not just women that can talk about feelings,
And how did you, you're in the therapy room, you said initially you didn't know how to open up. What was that kind of tipping point? What was the moment where you realized actually that you could, you could unfreeze a little bit and speak a bit more free?
Well, I was at rock bottom. I think because I was at rock bottom, I was severely depressed. I had suicidal thoughts, to be very transparent. And I was like, this is really bad. And my older sister sensed something, and she was like, I mean, thank God she was like, please don't do anything to yourself because we'd be devastated. And that really like snapped me out of it. And I was like, okay, I need to see a therapist. Maybe I need to go on antidepressants. But I was sitting in a therapist room again. It was like, the therapist was really good. She's like, I'm not going to talk. We could sit here for an hour in silence. And I was like, that was like really uncomfortable for me too. And I was like, well, this sucks. I'm not going to sit here. This is boring. So like, I think that forced me to just, and I can be a chatty person. So I think once I had practice with it, the floodgate was just open.
So it was more uncomfortable in silence than it was to actually.
Yeah, it was really awkward. Just like this nice woman, like, just like smiling at you, but not talking like and I've seen therapists over the years, and it can be hard. It's not easy every week or every other week to always talk. But you do get better. It's like anything. It's like with practice, you get better at it. I wish everyone had a therapist. It's amazing.
And looking back, I mean, many people listening to this will have probably lost someone in their lives, perhaps even a parent. And you experienced extreme depression. What do you think for you anyway was the driver for that depression? And I know that sounds like a basic question because it was a loss of your father, but can you explore more, or perhaps you just couldn't put your finger on it? What was driving those feelings?
I think, to be honest, I think I think it can be genetic to a degree. I think I love my mother. She's a nut. I love her, but I think I might have gotten it from, there's a generational thing. You get it from people. It just could be a chemical imbalance. So I think as a kid, I would get pretty moody, but also, yeah, I mean, I started getting very depressed because it was Christmas. The first Christmas without my dad was rough. Like that was, I love the holidays. And it was just like, nothing takes the fun out of the holidays like a death in the family. Like it was, I mean, my sister and I were just like, this sucked. Like we didn't want to do anything. So that was like, and then the holidays stopped, and it was just me and my mom and little sister in the house. And it was just like really quiet. Cause when someone passes away, it can be kind of nice because everyone just flocks to you, and there's like a lot of energy and there's a lot of people, and you just hear from people you haven't seen in a long time. But then eventually like that fades out, people kind of move on with their lives. So it was like that, the death, this sounds so dark, but the death had like faded out, and then the holidays ended, and it was just like really quiet and boring. And I got back to school, and I was just, it was also just like a reality check. Life had just changed so much. My dad like kind of brought an energy to the house. Like he was the host. So he was big on like throwing parties and getting people together. And my mom was like, just like, okay, fine. I'm like, we'll just go with it. But she was more the introvert. So, it just like, yeah. And it was depressing too, because I was like, oh shit, like this is how like the holidays might always be. Like, so it was just, yeah, it was like, it just got really dark. It was like, because it was just like life completely flipped upside down.
And you said you've already said that by burying those feelings or staying strong, which I think, as you put it, that did cost you in the following years, emotionally, physically, with relationships. So tell us about how you started to, view the loss in a different way, because, the book that you ended up writing, talks about, it has humor in it, and people perhaps think, well, that's very odd, talking about loss and bereavement with humor. But, tell us how you started to then move forward.
I think, I was really lucky. I grew up in like a funny family, and it was basically, you were encouraged to overshare. So if you had like an upset stomach, you told everyone about it. And because everyone, like you basically, that's how you helped cope with things. If you, did horrible in class or something, like so you threw up on yourself, like it was embarrassing, you kind of share and you get a laugh at it. That was like your way to like get something out of the pain. So my family at dinner tables, like people would be sharing stories. And my mom, again, like my mom has, I think, my dad was very sarcastic and witty, but I think my mom has more of the dark humor. So I just kind of grew up in a very TMI family. So when I got out of college, I was starting to read books like David Sedaris. And I was like, oh, this stuff is awesome. Like, I eventually want to do a book like this. And again, because I was so comfortable oversharing, I was like, oh, I have a billion stories I could share. And then it wasn't until I think I was like in my 30s that I thought about a book about this, about my dad, about grief. Um, and eventually, when I was in my late 30s, my wife and I went on our honeymoon to Bali and we saw a healer, and the healer said that my dad showed up. Whether it was true or not, I was bawling my eyes out. And it was really special. It was really funny. Like my wife and I were like, I was blubbering, like crying, but also laughing because it was just so absurd. But we got back from the honeymoon and I was like, that's what my book is going to be about. It's going to be about like how absurd yet funny it is, like how grief can really just like fuck up your world, you know? And again, I use humor. It's a coping mechanism. It's a survival trait. Like I think me and my family would be, in like a mental institution years ago if we didn't have a good sense of humor. So I think it really, really helps.
I think you said writing about grief was like a raccoon opening a trash can loudly, curiously, and for laughs. So I think that's a great way of describing what you're talking about here. And humor helps everybody. So in terms of, obviously you had it within your family and then within your writing. How do you think generally men, grief obviously applies to men and women, but talking more about men, how do you think, grief is usually managed by men?
I mean, it's just like suppressed. I think also my dad, I remember, when he got prostate cancer, he got pretty depressed, which I get. He was having a really tough time. He was getting up to pee like 6 times a night because, he's having prostate issues. He had surgery. Like, so I remember that. And he joined a support group, which in the 90s was like a men's support group was like absurd. And I think we all like kind of chuckled at it, but we're like, oh, that sounds interesting. I think he really enjoyed it because it was all men his age, roughly. And I think they were just like, oh, wow, this is a safe space. Like we can complain about this thing like we're in the trenches together. So that was a really interesting turn, I think, in society. It was like those men's support groups. Yeah, I think it's hard because so many men, I think sometimes like society wants like a quiet, strong man. Like I think some women are very attracted to like a quiet, strong man, like very secure, very masculine. But it's just like that's just not a lot of us. So it's hard. I mean, I can be very secure and I'm not super masculine, but I can be very secure at times. But as you can tell, I was raised to be chatty. So like I'm gonna complain if I have an issue. But yeah, I think it's hard. I think a lot of men are taught or shown that like it's cool to be quiet, like be mysterious or be strong, and again, that's a generational thing. Because I know older generations, like a lot of boomers were raised to be quiet and like you didn't cry. And like now I'm trying to tell men that like real men cry and it actually can be funny and that's okay. Like you can laugh about it, but it's like, it's a normal thing to do.
And so you wrote your book, and what I guess once you've written it and you decided to publish it, what sort of reception did you get? Did you get men coming up to you and saying, this is great, this has really helped me? I was the type you just talked about who suppressed everything and just kept a kind of a veneer on my grief.
Yeah, it's been really well received, which is awesome. And I mean, because I worked on it for a long time. So sometimes people are like, I'm sorry to like annoy you. And I'm like, you're not annoying me. If you're going to compliment my book, like I will stop whatever I'm doing. Like, but I had guy friends that were like, who lost their dads or lost their mom. And I had a couple friends that lost parents around when I lost my dad, and they read the book and they were like, oh my God, like you got me. Like I was crying. They're like, I suddenly found my eyes like watery and I didn't know what was happening. Like they were like, God damn it. Like they were mad at me. They really liked it, but they were mad at me because they're like, I can't believe you cried. You also got me to read a book. So, that was nice. Yeah, it was cool though. I had, men, and I had some people that like the women would come to me, like message me and be like, my husband's really enjoying your book. Like, so I wouldn't hear from the men directly all the time, but she'd be like, he's really relating to it, or like it's really tapping a nerve because he lost his mom like 4 years ago, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really nice. And again, like I think it just, by me being so vulnerable, it gives guys permissions to be vulnerable as well. I don't mind acting like a fool. So it's kind of my thing. So I think I hopefully like that helps other guys be more comfortable.
And you call the book Damaged Goods. Why can you explain the name?
Yeah, I had that name for a really long time. Like I had the name before I even like had the book idea. I think because I think after my dad passed those first couple years, which were the hardest, I don't know where I heard that term, but that was always kind of a joke my family would make about like, we felt kind of like, cause we were just kind of like derelicts those first couple years. Like you were just bailing on social engagements. Everyone wanted to quit their jobs, like me and all my sisters. Like no one wanted to do anything, no one wanted to be like a good, responsible, productive adult. So I think it was like something we would just joke around about, like we're all damaged now because of the loss of our dad. So yeah, that was a title. And again, that just played into my dark humor. And some people will be like, you're not damaged goods. Like they get so upset. I'm like, it's kind of a joke, like I think I am like a little damaged, but I also think that like from the incident, but I also think that like there's a lot of positive that came from that massive incident in my life.
So do you think you are, a changed person? Did it, as a result of experiencing, I mean, we will all go through it, but, you've written a book as a result. You've, you talk about it so that men are, encouraged to perhaps change the way that they think about grief, but on a broader level, think about masculinity.
Yeah. I know I'm definitely forever changed. And I honestly like, sometimes it can be frustrating when people haven't gone through it because like they may not just appreciate things as much, or they may not have the foresight of like, oh, this person's having this event, like I should show up and show face because life is short, and I've learned that life is very short because I've watched someone pass away in front of me. Sometimes people are still like, I have friends that have both their parents and they're still kind of like a kid. Whereas like I feel like I became an adult at 20, 2 weeks before my 21st birthday. I feel like that's when I became an adult in a sense. So yeah, sometimes it can be hard when people are not on your level. Like because you can always, when someone's lost someone, you can connect with them in a different way because they've gone through it and they've gotten that reminder that like life like, you could lose someone tomorrow before you know it, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely forever changed. But again, I think there's a lot of, it's easy for me to say because I've been grieving for over 20 years, but there is a lot of positive that does come from it.
And so, as you said, it's 20 years later, and this happened to you in your early 20s. What advice do you have for men who are, in midlife now? And, because some of the pressures, environmental, familial are different when you're older. What advice would you have for the guys who are going through that bereavement process now?
I think I would say just kind of lean into like what's comforting at the moment. I think there was times when, I was going through it And I would sometimes feel guilty because I'm like, I watched 5 movies today. I haven't gotten anything done. I was unemployed off and on those first couple of years too. Not by choice. It was just like, there was a lot going on. I think I would encourage people just to lean into it. Try to like meet up with people and be social because you really do feed off people. But it's also just like, this is such a crazy time, and it's like when someone's passing or just passed, you're given you should take advantage of it being a time to like be a lazy turd, or, or go on a trip with someone you haven't seen in a long time. Cause you may not get that chance again. So you might as well like lean in hard to it. And also just like talk it out, see a therapist, hang out with friends. It really does help, like all those things. I think the worst thing you can do is stay home alone, not talk about it, not see anybody. So.
And in terms of kind of your identity, how you perceive yourself, obviously it's a while since, it's 20 years since your dad passed, but how do you think it changed you as an individual, in terms of your identity? How do you view yourself now?
It's really interesting because it really taught me like to man up. And I don't mean that in like an old school, like sexist kind of way, but really kind of be more, have more of a backbone and stand up for myself more and be more aggressive and decisive. Again, when I was younger, I was just kind of like, I don't know, my heads were kind of in the clouds. I was very ambitious, but I was not a strong person. And it's interesting. I think I'm really sensitive, but I also can be very decisive and like, no, this is what I want. Or, I can sometimes be controlling, like with friends. I'm like, we should go here for dinner, but I've gotten just so much better at like taking charge. But I also think it's interesting because I'm 44 and like I'll make silly videos and stuff like that. And I think sometimes I wonder if my dad passing when I was 20, if that almost kind of stunted my maturity at times. Cause like I can be pretty immature for my age, but that's also like kind of keeping me young, which is nice. So it's an interesting juxtaposition of like, I feel like I'm very adult because I don't have 2 parents telling me what to do. I can, I haven't had a dad for a very long time. And then on the flip side, I can be very immature and, I'll make a dick joke in a meeting, that kind of thing. So it's like, it's a really interesting combination.
Let me ask you, how do you think you're easing into your kind of middle years? You're 44, so, you probably sit in the slap bang in the kind of midlife definition, although, I think that's 30 to 70 plus. How are you slipping into that? How are you adapting to it?
Oh man, I think I'm like tripping into it. Yeah, midlife is nuts. I swear though, when I hit 30, I feel like my body parts started to feel sore and I didn't know why. And I thought 40 was actually kind of cool. 44 is a different beast. Like my metabolism is just like my metabolism is just dead. I don't know what happened to it. But yeah, midlife is nuts because it is interesting. I have 2 kids. So you're a parent to 2 kids, and then my mom is getting very old. So you have to be a parent to your parent. So they say it's called like it's like the sandwich years because you're sandwiched between these 2 very taxing things. I find midlife nuts. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's like one day I love it. I'm like, this is cool. I'm older. I can like afford to go to a nice dinner. And then the next moment I'm like, this kind of sucks. Like I have to go to a foot doctor. I have like, I have all these different doctors that I didn't have. So I don't know. It's nuts.
And talking about, physical health, obviously your father, had, prostate cancer. So, the importance, I guess you've learned firsthand then the importance of, looking after yourself, and especially for men, I guess checking yourself for prostate cancer and, taking that responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the book. I had to get my first prostate exam when I was like 21 on a Friday at 8 a.m. And I went out the night before. I didn't know this was pre-Google. I would have Googled it. I had no idea what a prostate exam was. let me just restate. I was extremely hungover. The doctor was male, and I was like, "We're doing what?" It was awful. And but the nice thing is now they can just do a PSA. But over the years, so PSA, if people don't know, that's you just get blood work done. The prostate exam is physical. But yeah, now it's good because I just urge all my friends. I'm like, you guys getting checked. Like I got a colonoscopy 2 years ago. And I told the entire world about it. I was like, the nap was phenomenal. It wasn't that bad. Like, so I'm trying to like make it, I'm trying to raise awareness. And again, like previous generations, they just don't really share that information as much. So, I think women are really good at getting, they'll go to their different doctors, they'll do their exam. Men are just so bad at it. So, I'm trying to like constantly tell all my male friends, like, have you gotten checked? Like, and then they'll be like, I want to do a prostate exam. And I'm like, you can do the blood work and you don't have to get like touched by a doctor. But I also that's why I started, getting involved with the Mass Prostate Cancer Coalition. The thing my dad started when he was fighting prostate cancer, because he was like, there's no like, he felt like there was like American Cancer Society, but there was no group just for prostate cancer. So I started getting involved with them, and that's been nice because they typically speak to guys that already have prostate cancer. And I'm like, well, this is kind of useless. Like they already know what's going on. So I'm working with them to try to get after people like under 60, raise awareness. So that's been good. But yeah, I think it's just about like trying, and there's things like, Movember, which is really good, that organization. I did know Movember once where you grow a mustache and raise money. That's really cool because that was, again, it was started by millennials, and it's just kind of a cooler, fun vibe. It's not so like medical. It's easier to digest. But yeah, I think it's just really important for men to get all their checkups, and like it's not the end of the world. Like,
because it's linked, isn't it? Your physical health or men's physical health can be linked then to kind of how honest, emotionally you are, because you have to suppress this or ignore this old-fashioned kind of, hey, men never need to go to the doctor, or I'm not going to be, have a finger, digit in my posterior. I'm not going to do that. Whereas, as you said, do you want to be around for your kids? Your responsibility is your health, not just to yourself, but to other people around you. But also, as you said, it's about bloods in the first instance. So, it's kind of trying to break down all these myths.
Yeah, and I have fraternity brothers. Like we have a group chat, and like we'll just openly talk about those things, and we make fun of each other a lot. But like, it's okay. Like it's again, like men don't have to be silent, and it doesn't have to be so secret. You can be like, I had a prostate exam and it was the worst thing, or I had a colonoscopy and like I had to take laxatives the night before. Like it's okay to talk about it, like doesn't have to be this secret. You don't have to be this like strong silent type,
Well, this is where, going back to, what we were talking about earlier in your book, this is where humor comes into it, because that unlocks conversations, that makes people feel instantly more comfortable, assuming you have a sense of humor. Some people might not, but most people do. So I think, your approach, with your book and your writing and everything you're talking about is to break down those barriers with humor and with honesty.
Yeah. I mean, something that also gave me an idea was when my therapist, the first one I saw, because I've seen a bunch, when I was 21, she recommended some books, and then another therapist years later recommended more books, and they were miserable. Like they were like on Death and Dying. Some of them were, really, the information was incredible, but I could not get through it. It was just so, it's kind of like when your wife is pregnant, she gives you all these baby books to read. Like they're just, so many of them are just so dry, and they're, you just can't, they're not enjoyable. So I felt like, yeah, if I can share personal stories and they're entertaining, then I can like weave in some information along the way. Like I can, like, and that wasn't my intention with the whole book. I'm not like, I'm here to teach men like how to deal with grief or teach women. But I did think it would be a nice way to weave in some things I've learned over the years in like a low key, entertaining way, not like you're reading a textbook,
Do you think we need to just rethink the way that we frame death in our society? I mean, some cultures around the world have a much better approach. Some religions, some cultures have a much better approach to death. Whereas I think largely, and I'm talking very generically, in the kind of Western world, however you want to, define that, death happens to everybody. And yet it always seems such a shock. It always seems so upsetting when it happens. And yet, there aren't many certainties in this life. What is it? Death and taxes, I think. So, it's not like it was completely unexpected. So do you think we need to just reshape the way that we teach kids about death, how we adapt to it as adults?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think in Irish culture, it's like, people will get hammered. I think it does need to be a celebration of life. When my dad died again, he had been sick for 6 years. So like at one point my mom was like laughing at the luncheon afterwards. And it's like, but it's like I think she was laughing with friends and they were just complaining about what the past 6 years had been like. It's like, you don't have to, everybody grieves in a different way. But I just heard yesterday about a good family friend that was friends with my dad who just passed away, and he had Alzheimer's for a long time. And I was like psyched for him. I was like, that's a relief. Like, and now hopefully he's hanging out with my dad, So I think it's like, obviously, I think it depends on the circumstance. If someone, I think it's a little easier to celebrate when someone's been sick for a while or not doing well for a while. But yeah, I agree. I don't think it has to be. I think it should be a beautiful thing. I also think that like, this is going to sound really weird, but I think like funerals can kind of be fun at times. Like they're very social, which is nice. Like, I've seen them as like, they force people to get together that always are too busy.
Well, that's what everybody says, right? They say, "Oh, it's a shame that it took a funeral to bring us together."
Yeah, but it can be a great. It can be really nice. I went to one last year and I saw people I hadn't seen in 20 years, and it was just nice. It was like, because otherwise, if you tried to text those people and make plans, they'd be like, "I can't afford it. Oh, we got the kids thing." Like everyone is too busy. But it's like a funeral. A funeral like trumps everything. So
just that someone has to die first.
I know. I mean, that's the only bummer. But besides that, they're phenomenal. Yeah. No, I think it should be more fun. I think it should be like Irish culture, like it's a celebration of life. And I think to your point, there's other cultures. Mexico isn't like the Day of the Dead or something, like they do that cool, huge thing. I think we need stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, just going back to your book, then, Damaged Goods. What is kind of if someone could take one message away from that book that relates to those people who are listening, who perhaps quietly carrying their own grief, perhaps they haven't processed this, they don't really know, perhaps as you explained, it's just numbed them, they're just stagnant because they can't get over it. What is your one message to them just to help them find a way forward?
I think it would be that like, you're not alone. Like people don't have to be alone. And again, that doesn't just pertain to, losing a loved one, but I think with anything, it's like, I think people make us happy. Like they say those things like, you can buy like a nice car, you can buy all these things, but it's like you really, or there's stand-up comics that have been like, yeah, I did this entire world tour. I thought that would make me happy, but it's really just like laughing with my friends at dinner is what makes me even happier. So I think it's like, you don't have to be alone. And you can lean on people around you. And again, like what you're going through, it's kind of, the details might be different, but, there's a ton of other people that are going through it as well. And it really helps to connect with people that are going, that are going through things that you're going through as well. The worst thing you can do is just kind of hide in the shadows. Even if you feel like you look like a homeless person, you haven't showered, you're gross, like try not to hide because it really helps. And also you can feed off the energy of other people. Like it really, you feel like you just want to crawl up into a ball and die, but like that doesn't make you feel better,
Great, thank you. If people want to find out more about you and the book, where do they go?
Yeah, so the Damaged Goods is on Amazon. Make sure Damaged Goods by John Colbert. There's a few Damaged Goods. I think one's like a erotic book. Nine's not that book. That's not my book. But yeah, Damaged Goods by John Colbert. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble, I believe, as well. You can follow me on social. It's Colbert. That's just kind of do some stuff silly stuff on the side. But for my book, that's on Amazon.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'll put the links in the show notes. John, thank you. Thanks so much for kind of lifting the lid on a topic that's normally quite difficult to talk about. And I love the way that you've brought humour into what's commonly quite a serious, dark topic, and for good reason. So thank you, John.
No, I mean, thank you for having me. This was great. These questions were awesome. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Midlife Men podcast with me, Philip Briscoe. If you want to find out more about John, visit his website. It's colbert.com. And his book, Damaged Goods, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and on other online retailers. To help raise the profile of this podcast, as ever, it really helps if you can share it or review it with your networks and your friends. And if you've got a story you'd like to share, then please do contact me through the website mid-lifemen.com.